Chapter 18, Osama bin Laden. The FBI has no hard evidence connecting bin Laden with the 9/11 attacks on America. This is a quote by FBI spokesman Rex Toome, 2006. Bin Laden was used in the same way that 9/11 was used to mobilize the emotions and feelings of the American people in order to go to a war that had to be justified through a narrative that Bush Jr. created and Cheney created about the world of terrorism. This is a quote by Dr. Steve R. Pieczenik. Michael Schur is a former CIA intelligence officer of 20 years and is an author, foreign policy critic and political analyst. He currently works as an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. During his career, one of his assignments was serving as the CIA's chief of the Bin Laden issue station. He was interviewed by RT News and said that Washington's enemy is an enemy that doesn't exist. It didn't exist when bin Laden was alive. It doesn't exist now. Speaking at the International Conference on the New World Order, which was sponsored by the Padana Global Peace Foundation, Canadian economist and author Dr. Michael Chossudovsky commented that we are dealing with a criminal undertaking at a global level. The global war on terrorism is fake. It's based on fake premises. It tells us that somehow America and the Western world are going after a fictitious enemy, the Islamic State, when in fact the Islamic State is fully supported and financed by the Western military alliance and America's allies in the Persian Gulf. They say Muslims are terrorists. They are not the product of Muslim society, and that should be abundantly clear. The global war on terrorism is a fabrication, a big lie and a crime against humanity. I have already said that I am not involved in the 9/11 attacks in the United States. The United States should try to trace the perpetrators of these attacks within itself, the people who are a part of the US system, but are dissenting against it. Is it not that there exists a government within the government in the United States? That secret government must be asked as to who carried out the attacks. This is an excerpt from an interview between Pakistani newspaper Amat and bin Laden in 2001 after the attacks. Paul Craig Roberts is a chairman of the Institute for Political Economy and shares proof that Osama bin Laden was in fact the CIA and that he even died in 2001. He quotes an article by Michael C. Rappert and says that there are links between bin Laden's business interests and those of the Bush family. We should visit the history of the BCCI, a bank used by a Palestinian terrorist known as Abu Nidal. The bank was closely tied to American and Pakistani intelligence, and its clients included the brother of Osama, Salem bin Laden. Named a Houston investment broker named James R. Barth as his business representative in Texas just after George W. Bush's father became the CIA director in 1976. In 1977, Barth invested $50,000 into Junior's first business, Arbusto Energy. Osama bin Laden became a CIA asset. More details can be found in David Icke's books and a book by Peter Bruton called The Mafia, CIA and George Bush. Tim Osman is also known as Osama bin Laden. Tim Osman was the name assigned to him by the CIA for a tour of the United States and the United States military bases in search of political support and arms. Bin Laden was the prime suspect in the New York and Washington attacks and branded an international terrorist by the controlled media, but he was born in Saudi Arabia and recruited during the Soviet-Afghan War by the CIA to fight Soviet invaders. The Bush administration needed a good reason that complied with the law so that they could go after the bad guy of choice. Laws that were set in place to protect the United States from mobs and criminal organizations like the Mafia, and so they paid Jamal al-Fadl hundreds of thousands of dollars to back the United States government's story of Al-Qaeda, a group criminal organization that they could hunt down. The United States government has consistently blamed me for being behind every occasion its enemies attack it. I would like to assure the world that I did not plan the recent attacks, which seems to have been planned by people for personal reasons. I have been living in the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan and following its leader's rules. The current leader does not allow me to exercise such operations. These are words from a statement from bin Laden to the Al Jazeera news channel. Then there are the intelligence agencies in the US, which require billions of dollars worth of funds from the Congress and the government every year. This funding issue was not a big problem till the existence of the former Soviet Union, but after that the budget of these agencies has been in danger. They need an enemy. So they first started propaganda against me and the Taliban, and then this incident, 9/11, happened. This is a statement from Osama bin Laden, the 24th of September, 2001. Benazir Bhutto was asked in a David Frost interview in November 2007 about an attempt to assassinate her in the previous month. She suspected the involvement of Pakistan's security services. She had also received a letter from Mr. Musharraf warning her of the various terrorist organizations who were targeting her for assassination, and she replied stating that while these terrorist groups may be used, I thought it was more important to go after the people who supported them, who organized them, who could possibly be the financiers for these groups. She also remarked that in reference to a security agent she suspected of being involved in bombings that she had dealings with Omar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. 2 months after the interview in December 2007, Bhutto was assassinated while leaving a campaign rally and getting into a bulletproof vehicle but standing up to wave through the sunroof. She was shot and explosives near the vehicle were detonated, killing 20 people. She died in surgery in a hospital. President Obama chose the 1st of May, 2011, to announce the breathtaking fable that Osama bin Laden had been killed, and so making the bearded one the only person in known human history to have died twice. This is a quote by David Icke. Philosopher and analyst Professor David Ray Griffin disagrees with Bhutto because he supposes that bin Laden died of kidney failure in December 2001 in the Tora Bora Mountains in Afghanistan. His book is entitled Osama bin Laden, Dead or Alive. He also believes that tapes made since that date featuring bin Laden have been concocted by the West in order to make the general public believe that he was still alive in order to stoke up waning support for the war on terror. Interestingly, he also states that a reason to suspect that all of the post-2001 bin Laden tapes are fabrications is that they often appeared at times that boosted the Bush presidency or supported a claim by its chief war on terror ally, Tony Blair, the British Prime Minister. The confession tape came exactly when Bush and Blair had failed to prove bin Laden's responsibility for 9/11, and both men were trying to win international public support. He also points out that bin Laden was treated to a urinary infection, which can be linked to kidney disease, at the American hospital in Dubai in July 2001, and at the same time ordered a mobile dialysis machine to be delivered to Afghanistan. He also informs us about a news item that broke on the 26th of December 2001 in the Egyptian newspaper Al Waft, where it said that a prominent official of the Afghan Taliban had announced that bin Laden had been buried on the 13th of December. Bin Laden died in 2001. As a physician, I had known the CIA physicians that had treated him, and it was on the intelligence roster that he had Marfan syndrome, for which there is no permanent cure. The CIA physicians visited bin Laden in July 2001 at the American hospital in Dubai. He was very sick, so nobody had to kill him. He died shortly after in his Tora Bora cave complex. This is an excerpt from information given to Alex Jones at Infowars.com by Paul Joseph Watson about Dr. Steve R. Pieczenik, who worked under 3 different presidents in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. The Taliban offered to hand over bin Laden if the United States could provide the evidence they said they had against him. This is an excerpt from Rise of the New World Order by J. Michael Thomas Hayes.